Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. I am very excited to get back onto the routine of recording and talking about fashion news. We usually do this monthly if you're new over here. So what's trending in fashion, fashion news from a business related perspective is usually where I go with these topics. So let's go ahead and get into it. First up is going to be a what I saw on WWD referring to Saks Fifth Avenue. They are going to have a storefront on Amazon. Now, if you have been around for a little bit of time, you will remember that I did cover what goes around comes around selling on Amazon. And in that same video, I talked about how Saks Fifth Avenue approached, I can't remember what luxury fashion house it was, and they said no, but what goes around comes around does sell that brand too. And so indirectly, you can get that brand from Saks Fifth Avenue. I'm sorry, from Amazon. You can get Coach now on Amazon. I know I've talked about that before. And so we're seeing this expansion of into the luxury market with Amazon, which I think is a very interesting move and a smart move on the Amazon front to broaden their range. Usually when you think about Amazon, you're thinking about let me get my paper products or let me get kind of Korean skincare or dupes for items that are usually sold at a Saks Fifth Avenue or Neiman Marcus, or formerly Neiman Marcus, since they have been purchased by Saks Fifth Avenue, but or their parent company of Saks Fifth Avenue. I can now go directly to Saks Fifth Avenue storefront on Amazon and get pieces. Now, some of the designers that they will be making available in this first iteration or first opportunity is going to be Stella McCartney, Etro, Erdem. What else did I see? There's another one that I wanted to mention, Dolce and Gabbana, as well as Jason Wu. And I believe there are some other ones that I did see listed. And it does seem like they're going to do a little bit of a twist to it. So it seems like they're going to have little kind of slightly unique items that you won't necessarily see on Saks website, but you will be able to get through the Saks storefront at Amazon, which I think is a smart move because you want to have a reason to drive people to come to Amazon versus going to Saks Fifth Avenue. It did say in that same article, which will always be linked down below for reference, is that Saks will, when you purchase from them, it will come from Saks. However, Amazon will handle the customer service. They're also going to handle the returns, which I think is very interesting. If you've seen those documentaries where you talk about returns and the kind of big waste problem that has come to be, to Amazon's credit, it's been very easy to return items. It on the other side for what they do with those items is a bigger, thing that happens. And what I wonder is how is this going to work with luxury goods? And are they going to have a tighter process for how those items get back to Saks? Or are they just going to be in a segmented warehouse? How are they going to manage that is going to be an interesting thing that we'll have to see what happens with. Along that same vein with Saks Fifth Avenue, one of the things that I did not get a chance to do an update on, so I want to do it now, is the fact that I mentioned last year about the merger, Saks Fifth Avenue's parent company purchasing Neiman Marcus. There have been stories that have come out since then, and this is alleged. And I will leave the articles that reference it down below. But like I said, to be clear, this is alleged. And how there will be payment delays, significant payment delays for vendors. And I did want to share that because I feel like this is interesting that they're doing this partnership or this kind of I don't want to necessarily say it's a partnership, but basically they're making themselves available and on Amazon. But then also you have these vendors that are likely going to struggle, and the detrimental situation that their business could be put in from the delayed payments from Saks. Saks has allegedly, they have come out and said that they intend to pay everybody. The question, from what I understand from the items that I looked at, is based off of when. And it could be 90 days, it could be longer than that, allegedly. And that is a significant hit to a small business. Even in today's time, I think with larger brands, this could be a significant hit, but it really matters to those small businesses out there that have been vendors for Saks Fifth Avenue and Neiman Marcus. All right, let me know what you think about that. And are you going to check out some of the things from the Saks storefront on Amazon? Let me know. And let's go to our next topic. It has been a while since I have talked about the Chanel versus what goes around comes around case. And I think last year in February, I talked about how there was basically it went in Chanel's favor. There's I didn't know this long. It takes this long, but and maybe it's because they've been filing, I don't want to say lawsuits, but responses or whatever you call them, lawyers in the chat or paralegals, let me know what it's called, but basically where they've filed things to the court and maybe that has delayed it. But I did see on the fashion law where they have received a final judgment. Was it the fashion law? I'm lying. It's not fashion law. It's also WWE. Usually I get this kind of news from the fashion law, but this one came from them. And basically, it's a final judgment in this case. Pretty much allegedly, we're going with allegedly with everything. It says that the decision by Judge Lewis Stanton of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York on Wednesday basically is a win for the luxury house, which they're talking about Chanel, as it continues to try to hamper down on other trademark distribution and marketing products that bear the Chanel name. And pretty much what has happened is with this judgment, it will ban sales of unauthorized or altered products, which are more commonly known as what they call like the Frankenstein bags. And what that means is it incorporates different elements from different resources. And when I think about, well, let me finish reading this first, and then I'll jump into something in a second. The reseller is also now required to flag disclosures on Chanel branded items allegedly, and it cannot claim authenticity for any Chanel products that it sells. So that is, we don't say allegedly. I think we it's final, so we don't have to say that, but to protect myself and my little bitty old chat over here, we're saying allegedly. But that's the final judgment that I read out to you. And what I find interesting is when they talked about the Frankenstein bags. When I think about a Frankenstein bag, I think about something that may have been all fixed. Like, let's say there is a handle that needed to be fixed or if they got it dyed. I do think it is the reseller's duty to disclose when something's been dyed or something's been majorly altered in that way, especially if they can visually tell that. I think that helps with the person that's getting the item to know what they're getting. Now, where I think this comes into very interesting piece here is, let's say you don't go back to the manufacturer to fix your item. I think those are also still considered Frankenstein bags. If I go to like a leather cobbler to fix my straps, restitch them or something of that nature, replace the straps, or the lining, what have you, put a new zipper in, that is considered a Frankenstein bag because all of the pieces are not original pieces, and now you have a merging. I think Jesse Styles brought up a good question here, which is, now, do you consider those real bags? In my mind, I think they are. They've been fixed and repaired, but they're still a real bag. I don't know whether a brand would consider that a real bag in that case. And this also means that this is a significant impact to the pre-owned market, especially, and also where you see a lot of brands where they have started to, now I won't say a lot of brands, but some brands have started to create stipulations around items that can be sent back to them to be fixed. If I've seen some cases where either there's a window of time, whether that's 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or that could be that if you did not purchase directly from them, they won't fix your item. And I can see brands kind of doing that to try to deter people from buying off of the pre-love market, as well as buying from other retailers like your Italus, like your Nordstrom, like somewhere else where you cannot, where they're kind of pushing you to go back. I can definitely see the extreme case of that. And that I find that very interesting that they mentioned the Frankenstein bag piece there. Let me know your thoughts on that. And have you purchased an item off the pre-love market that has been altered in any way? Was it obvious? Were you disappointed? Just let me know what your experience has been. Okay, let's talk about jewelry a little bit here. We don't do that too often, but we're going to talk about Bulgari. I think they have made an amazing wave into the market with their handbags. I would love a Bulgari handbag piece, but Bulgari has opened a new factory. It, as according to the Fashion Network, it is the world's largest production site for jewelry and precious metals, which is pretty amazing. A lot of times you hear about your common ones like Tiffany and Cartier and Van Cleef and Aprels, but not a lot. At least I won't. You don't see a lot of trending topics and posts around Bulgari. But from what I hear, they make some gorgeous, beautiful, luxurious pieces of fine jewelry. And what I noticed is in this article, it was saying that the new facility will consist of 3 buildings and they will be powered by 100% renewable energy, which I think is a great thing. Also, the manufacturing sites between the facilities are split into a dedicated area for producing metal components, and that will be between 6 and 7 million pieces a year, if you can imagine. They also, what I saw, will be will have a school there as well for jewelry manufacturing, which I think is really neat. They're kind of like thinking about this from end to end. So not just we're producing, but we want to pull in the next generation of manufacturers that will be the ones that will be creating these gorgeous pieces that they design, or the design team designs. So let me know your thoughts on that. Do you have a Bulgari piece? Have you heard of Bulgari? Would you buy from Bulgari? And we'll end it there. Thank you so much. Bye.